Oh, and welcome into the Weston Peachtree Plaza here at Atlanta, Georgia. Truly the calm before the storm. Before we even head to the stadium, I'm Joe Cronin, Brooks White. We're kind of breaking down the final preview before we head to the stadium for the Indiana and Oregon college football semifinals game. The Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. A lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, Brooks. I mean, this hotel is packed with Hoosier fans. It seems like the streets of Atlanta is all IU from what I've been seeing.
Well, yeah, and they have the luxury of being able to pack Mercedes-Benz Stadium, one of the nicest stadiums in the entire country, maybe even the entire world. And we've seen a ton of Hoosiers fans, not only in this hotel, but as we've looked down the streets. Not a lot of Oregon fans, but this is a pretty easily accessible place for Hoosier fans to get to. 8.5-hour drive. We did it a couple of days ago, but a lot of IU fans, and buzz around the program has never been bigger.
I mean, it's never been higher. You saw in the past couple weeks with Brian Haynes, Shanahan, both of them getting their extensions. Signetti is here to stay. It really seems like the investment into IU football is here, and it's very real. Now, Brooks, this is the college football playoff semifinals. The winner of this game punches their ticket to Miami to play the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, what a story that is. The Hurricanes getting that win last night. Getting to play in their own backyard for the championships is special beyond words, really. But the magnitude of this game. This would be Indiana's first ever national championship appearance. Oregon has been to that game a couple times before, but they're eyeing their first championship ever. I mean, the way that, Brooks, this game really feels like kind of a national championship in itself because it's the number 1 versus the number 5, arguably the best 2 remaining teams in this field.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely make a case. I mean, they're the best 2 teams in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has now a chance, or they do have 3 straight teams playing in a national championship game. Obviously, Michigan winning 2 years ago, Ohio State winning last year, and now one of these 2 teams are fighting for a chance to punch their ticket. Oregon, they have not played in a national championship game since 2014, and they're definitely hungry. A brand new era under Dan Lanning. But Indiana, number 1 team in the country, undefeated. The team just plays together. They play for a greater good, and they're really, really good. They're really well-disciplined. They're well-coached. And honestly, could not be more excited to see the team on the field tonight.
We'll break down some of the nitty-gritties of the matchup coming up, but something I want to look at is the paths these 2 teams had to take to reach the college football playoff semifinals, more importantly, in the playoffs. Now, Oregon, they got that home game against James Madison. Brooks, kind of walk through their 2-game stretch to be able to play here in Atlanta against Indiana.
Well, yeah, the Oregon Ducks, they had to play at home against James Madison, the Group of 5 team, and it really wasn't a pretty game. 51-34, a lot of back and forth, especially for that game being at home. Autzen Stadium, the Indiana Hoosiers snapped the longest consecutive home winning streak back in October with their 30-20 win over the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks have not lost since, and then they went to the Orange Bowl, and blanked Texas Tech 23-0. And it was a defensive masterclass. Dan Lanning talked about it in the presser, but his defense, they're hungry, they're fast. The edges of that defense, I mean, the Indiana offensive line is going to get tested again, but I think the Oregon Ducks, they've looked like a better team. Dante Moore is a really, really good quarterback, and both these quarterbacks fighting for the chance to go number 1 overall in April's NFL draft.
2 highly touted quarterbacks going to be dueling for the 2nd time this season,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy to think. Now, on the Indiana side, they got the bye, and that was kind of the big storyline is how do these bye teams play? Because last year, 0-4. This year, 1-3. In the 2 years of the 12-team playoffs, Brooks, 1-7. That one outlier is, of course, the Indiana Hoosiers. Going into the game, the buzz of the Rose Bowl, obviously, sea of red, 2 red teams, Indiana and Alabama. You could kind of sense there's a lot more Indiana fans. Those Hoosiers traveled across the country to get out to Pasadena. And then on the field, they did not disappoint. 38-3, Fernando Mendoza set a Rose Bowl record for completion percentage and passer rating. He had more passing touchdowns than he did incompletion, Brooks. This guy was on fire. And then on the ground, over 200 yards rushing. Roman Hemby eclipsed 1,000 yards on the season, which is pretty unbelievable that Hemby was able to do that. It's the first time since Stevie Scott did it in 2018. So this is such a well-balanced offense for Indiana. Have you seen really a weakness on their offensive game, especially against the Crimson Tide?
Well, that's the thing. The entire year, we've both really been trying to find ways to pick out little things that the Hoosiers don't do well or somebody could take advantage of. I'm done doing this right now. They prove me wrong week in and week out. They're so well coached. And I think the offense, the way that they were able to step up, obviously the first drive against Alabama, 2 sacks.
Yeah.
And they responded, and that win by 35 points in the Rose Bowl, it felt almost like a passing of the torch. The old guard, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, who have dominated college football the past 15, 20 years, they're not here. It's Indiana and Oregon right now playing for a chance to go into the national championship game. And the Hoosiers, they're looked at as one of the losingest programs in FBS history, now undefeated.
It's a new wave. There's a new era of college football, and I think we're kind of seeing the tide shift, no pun intended, with that. But a moment that really stood out to me in the Rose Bowl was that 4th and 1. Indiana's kind of scrambling. Signetti calls the timeout. Then Alabama runs up at their fake punt. Ty Simpson kind of as an up man. He runs up to kind of fake a sneak. Alabama calls a timeout. And then Alabama still goes out to run a play. And Indiana didn't budge on that, fake punt attempt, and then stuffed the little jet sweep it almost felt cute. And then you saw Signetti's eyebrow raised. He was asked about that throughout this week. That was pretty hilarious. But going back, the Peach Bowl, it's huge. It means everything. It's a ticket to the national championship, and these are two teams, Brooks, that have seen each other before back October 11th, Rowdy Autzen Stadium. That was, like you mentioned, Indiana snapped the then longest home winning streak, 30-20 over the Oregon Ducks. That place was bumping. The pick six had Autzen just in a mess. The fans are going crazy, and Fernando Mendoza did something that he has done all season long, come up in the clutch, silence that crowd. That was a special moment. That was kind of when I feel like the country was like, oh, this isn't just that cute story again. This team is here.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, going to Autzen Stadium, they had the longest home winning streak. They had it for a reason. Very well-coached team, very disciplined. But Autzen Stadium is loud, like you mentioned. The thing that I really want to point out, the Hoosiers made mistakes in that game. Obviously, Oregon did as well. The Hoosiers forced 6 sacks. Fernando Mendoza threw a pick 6, and the Hoosiers still won by 10 points. The second half, it really wasn't that close. You talk about the battle in the trenches. The Hoosiers are one of the best teams, if not the best team in college football at winning the trenches. And they were able to do that on the road. I think tonight's game, if the Hoosiers show that they are the team that we've seen throughout the entirety of the year, with this home, I'm going to say it's a home field advantage just because the amount of Hoosiers fans that we've seen there, obviously, a couple hours before kickoff, we haven't even been inside the stadium yet. Fans aren't allowed in the stadium for a while. We're not going to see that environment for a bit. But I think all things are leading towards affecting the game, or the fans can affect the game, the 12th man on the field. And IU did not have that luxury in Autzen Stadium, and they still won by 10 points. Well-coached team on both sides. These are great coordinators. I want to give Will Stein and Tosh Lupoy all the credit in the world. They're also head coaches now at Power 4 programs.
They're balancing the balancing act.
Yeah, they've been able to coach Oregon, also recruit for Kentucky and Cal, respectively. Indiana's coordinators, they don't have that problem, and they're here for the long haul. I think that really does benefit Indiana here. Not that Will Stein and Tosh Lupoy aren't fully involved in the day-to-day, but that is a really big distraction with the transfer portal being open right now. In Indiana, they rolled up. We saw them a couple of days ago. Strictly focused. Fernando Mendoza said, I know a lot of people say, but it's strictly a business trip for the Hoosiers. They're focused. Their quarterback is in the right headspace, and they're a disciplined team. So I think today, if they continue to play their style of ball, continue to play discipline, they're a hard team to beat.
Now, in that first half, kind of the first half, second half comparison back in October, Oregon's lone touchdown was on a no-huddle kind of busted coverage down to Malik Benson. And then looking at the at the end of the half, there was a huge moment. Indiana was able to kind of work the ball into what is a long field goal range, 58-yard attempt, and Brendan Franke made the first one on the timeout and then did it again in the rainy, kind of misty Autzen weather. That was a huge moment. That's giving yourself that 13-10 lead heading into the break. And then, man, that second half, Oregon only had 64 yards, 1 net rushing yard. That is huge. I mean, they were dominating the line of scrimmage. Dante Moore was that's a little bit of a nightmare scenario, but some of the bigger storylines heading into today especially is the fact that some of the guys that were making an impact on the Indiana D-line no longer active. Kellen Wyatt, he had a great game out in Autzen Stadium, tore his ACL this season, and then Stephen Daly, of course, what happened in the kind of celebration period after the Big Ten championship, is out for the remainder of this ride that this team is on. When we look at these two teams squaring off for the second time this season, history is not kind to rematches, especially in the postseason. We've already seen it this year with Ole Miss and Georgia. We saw it with Oklahoma, Alabama. I mean,
even last year, Oregon.
Even last year as well with Oregon and Ohio State. What kind of goes into a game like this? Obviously the stakes they couldn't be higher. I mean, a national championship would be the one thing a little bit higher, but the stakes are about as high as you can get right now for these two teams. What goes into it? Which team kind of has the edge?
Well, I think both teams are coming in hungry. Both teams, I think you mentioned the injuries to Indiana's defensive line, but it's next man up, and it's next man up for both teams. Jordan Davison, one of the leading running backs on this Oregon team. He's been the leading rusher in a majority of the games. He's out. He broke his clavicle against Texas Tech. He was the leading rusher in both the playoff games, and he is not going to be playing today. Whittington, obviously, he's questionable right now, but the Ducks are going to have to step up as well. So it's not like both teams are coming into this game completely healthy, but you're not expecting that when you come in playing one game before the national championship game.
The teams kind of being banged up. Something you look at is the coaching, and the guys at the heads of both these programs, Brooks, they are masterminds in their respective fields. I mean, who really has the edge? Is it Curt Cignetti? Because his talent evaluation is unbelievable. And then Dan Lanning is, if there's a guy to get you fired up and run through a brick wall, he's there.
Yeah, I don't want to actually give an answer to that because I want to give both of their coaches, or both these coaches, their respect they deserve. They're top 5, top 3 coaches in all of college football. Dan Lanning will get you ready to run through a wall. We saw the videos of him at Beaver Stadium when they played in the whiteout earlier this year. He had his guys ready. The Hoosiers, they also had to play at Beaver Stadium against Penn State. The Hoosiers have been tested the entire year. Just think about the fact that they had to play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. At the time, the biggest game. I mean, the next game for Indiana has always been the biggest game in program history because they haven't been here. The Big Ten championship game, you go and beat Ohio State, and then you play in the Rose Bowl. I mean, a lot of people were saying, can the moment be too big for Indiana? They went and steamrolled Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Now you get a chance to go play Oregon again. The Hoosiers are battle-tested. Same with the Oregon Ducks. It's a clash of the Titans here, and both coaches have their guys locked in.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Brooks. Before we head out, let's give a score prediction for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl kickoff, roughly 7:30, probably a little later. We know how it works.
I am going to say 31-21, Indiana gets their second 10-point win over Oregon this season.
I think Indiana controls this one. I don't know why. I just have a feeling 31-17. That defense is too good. They only allowed 13 offensive points at Autzen. But that's going to wrap it up. The next time you'll see us will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The buzz is real. It is building. It is palpable here in Atlanta. A ton of fun things coming your way, though. But for Brooks Sweat, I'm Joe Cronin. We'll see you in a couple of hours.